currently teaching the Performing Arts department, and it's very difficult to find ways of bringing in ILT strategies into the classroom because it's such a practical subject. And I was thinking of ways that we could make it slightly more interactive, not just through practical activity, and to get students to learn different ways of expressing themselves through the use of ILT. And we had got a bid for the MoleNet project, and we had got through some iPod Touches, and we found those quite useful to do various things such as evaluations and taking notes and having music readily available, which is quite important in the subject. But that wasn't quite right for our particular subject area. It worked for other subject areas, but we felt that this wasn't quite working in our particular strengths. So we wanted ways to evaluate product and performance, and not just through verbal, but actually for them to be able to assess themselves and do peer assessment. And it's quite easy to set up a tripod and a camera and just to video it once and put it on a big screen, but they don't really have ownership of that. And it was quite inspirational to use PSPs in our process because we can video things from different angles, and for the students to be able to self-assess using their own individual doc. So that was kind of the idea. We wanted the students to kind of start analysing themselves and be able to peer assess, to evaluate performance and start looking at it a bit more analytically rather than just evaluative. We used the PSPs in class, and they would be handheld because we didn't have the tripods, and it would be on a rotation basis. I used them particularly in dance-based classes, and the students are able to film each other's pieces from different angles in the room when it comes to the performances, and also throughout the process if this is applicable to the unit. And the students are then able to swap the different PSPs between them and write down notes from there. They can take photos on them, they can video in different formats. So it's quite a useful device, and it gets them talking. It's really fun. It's something they're used to from outside of college as well, and some of them really know how to use it, some of them not so sure how to use it. So it gets them talking about how to use different devices, and it inspires them. It makes them feel part of something new, fresh, and it keeps them engaged, considering they do the same sort of tasks on a regular basis on the process up to the product of performance. So it's nice to have something different to add variety for it. The outcome was very good of the project. The students are very positive about it. They like using them. It's kind of a gimmick to have them in a lesson. They like the lessons when we use those devices. Not that they don't like lessons otherwise, but it's something different to the usual day in, day out routine of the college. They learnt different ways of evaluating and self-assessing, and they were able to communicate better with one another and throughout their written work, because they were able to look back at what they had done so quickly and instantly, whereas normally they might have to wait until the next lesson, or we might not have time, or the end of the lesson people are all hustling and bustling and watching the same thing and talking rather than actually watching it. So that was quite good for them. That was brought up. The only thing that they would suggest is to use it a bit more often, which isn't always accessible, knowing that the devices have to be booked out, and they're obviously open to the entire college as well. From observations that I've had when staff have come in to observe my practice, they've all found it very inspirational for teaching and learning, and they see it as like a pioneering approach to get students to observe themselves and self-assess, which is very important in our subject in particular. They're very complimentary about the use of it and see that its advantages are highly strong. I feel in my teaching that it has improved my teaching. It's opened up a lot of more possibilities. It's impacted in a positive way, and I can explore different routes in my actual teaching process, rather than feeling quite fixed on the performative things that I learnt when I was at school or college. It makes the lessons a bit more fun for everybody, and it's a very nice atmosphere. It keeps it very engaging, which I find very useful, and it's nice for me to also have the evidence kept for examiners and inspectors, but in a slightly different format. It's nice for me to use that also towards assessment, so it's all very useful. The student learning experience has also been highly improved. It motivates the learners greatly, knowing that they can use different technologies within the classroom, and that it's not limited to their usual subjects where IT is quite a standard. It's changed the process and the viewing of performing arts, and that it's not just limited to the practical, that there are aspects that can be explored that might move them into a realm of technical theatre and actually looking at theatre as a whole, which is fantastic.